Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
This episode of the Single Tracks podcast is sponsored by ExploreBrevard.com. Picture yourself in the middle of 100,000 acres of public lands and over 300 shreddable miles of single track. A place often referred to as one of the top mountain biking towns in the country, Brevard, North Carolina has countless epic adventures for every kind of rider on tap. Whether you love rocky, rooty technical lines in Pisgah or flowy lines in DuPont State Recreational Forest, or something in between, Brevard has it all in spades. Come discover the place often referred to as the cycling capital of the South. Start planning your trip today at explorebrevard.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Single Tracks podcast. My name is Jeff, and today my guest is Kevin Adams. Kevin is a board member for the Verde Valley Cyclist Coalition, a nonprofit group working to promote cycling in the Verde Valley, which includes the town of Sedona, Arizona. Kevin is also the president of the Sedona Red Rock Trail Fund that raises money for the maintenance and enhancement of the non-motorized trails near Sedona and the village of Oak Creek. In his spare time, he's the chair of the Arizona State Committee on Trails. And of course, he's a mountain biker too, and he's been connected to the local scene in Sedona and the Verde Valley for almost a decade. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So tell us a bit about your background. How'd you end up in the Verde Valley area?
Oh, goodness. My journey to the Verde Valley originated over 80 years ago as my dad lived in Gilbert, Arizona in the late 30s and early 40s prior to joining the Navy during World War II.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I was stationed in Arizona as a young Marine in 1975 and fell in love with the state, knew I would always come back, and throughout and subsequent to my 20-year Marine Corps career, I was a trail runner until my knees told me that I needed to find another sport if I didn't want to weigh 700 pounds. So I started mountain biking in 2009, and by 2012, my wife and I were looking for a place to retire from the Washington, D.C. metro area. And that's, Jeff, that's another place with incredible mountain biking. Yeah, very, very little known that there's like 600 miles of trails within 60 miles of the White House. But one trip to Sedona in 2012, we knew this was the place. We came back in 2013, bought our home in the village of Oak Creek in 2014, and have been here pretty much ever since. The thing I like about it here is you can mountain bike 365 days a year. If it's too hot in the summer, the Ponderosa Pines at 7,000 feet in elevation near Flagstaff, call. I rode up there yesterday. If it's too cold or rainy in the winter, hundreds of miles of Phoenix area trails, which is about 2,000 miles lower in elevation, are less than 2 hours away. We're at about 4,500 feet elevation here.
Okay.
And many of us believe, when I say us, I'm talking about mountain bikers that are here now, believe we've died and gone to heaven. There's about 30 other mountain biking couples. Came to the same conclusion we did at about the same time, and each year our circle of mountain biking friends here keeps growing as more and more people decide to retire here, young retirees, and because of the incredible mountain biking.
So what makes Sedona and the Verde Valley stand out to you among all the mountain bike destinations that there are on this planet?
Oh, three things, Jeff. The land. The Verde Valley is central Arizona. Encompasses about 714 square miles, approximately 100 miles north of Phoenix. And only about 17% of the land is privately held. So it includes 5 incorporated municipalities, numerous unincorporated communities. I live in one, the village of Oak Creek. Parts of 2 counties, the Coconino and Prescott National Forest, 5 state park facilities, 5 public elementary school districts, 3 national monuments, vast acreages of state trust land, Native American lands, mountains, canyons, 3 perennial flowing creeks, and the Verde River, and of course the iconic Red Rocks of Sedona. Second item is the people. Many Sedona and Village of Oak Creek area residents are from somewhere else. are here by
Mm.
choice and truly care for the land and our way of life.
Hmm.
And finally, the trails. There's over 400 miles of trails on public land open to mountain bikers in the Verde Valley.
Wow. Wow. Has it always been like that? I mean, have there always been that many trails open to bikes?
No, it's been growing each year since I've been here. A couple of things that have happened just this last trail season. Our trail season goes from late October to late April, early May, because in the summer it's just too darn hot, and the
Hmm.
monsoons come through. If we have a monsoons, last summer we had a non-soon, but this last season, the Red Rock Ranger District built two trails in the village of Oak Creek. One called Rabbit Ears because it goes up to an iconic rock feature that looks like rabbit
Hmm.
ears, and the other called Little Rock that connects. They connect and they form a loop that goes off the Big Park loop here in the village of Oak Creek. So that's just the
Hmm.
latest of new trails that have been put in here. And I
Yeah.
think later on we're going to talk about trails, and I can go into more detail.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's dive into it. So, I mean, a
Okay.
lot of people have heard of Sedona as a mountain bike destination, and so for a lot of people, maybe they just kind of show up. So, for someone visiting for the first time, what are your sort of two or three must-ride trails or trail systems that people are going to want to experience?
Well, that depends on your skill level. Sedona's a place where, as our former chamber president was fond of saying, you can ride to the ride.
Mm.
That said, you can quickly get over your head on the technical trails here.
Hmm.
So if you have high risk tolerance, there's the three H's: high on the hog, hangover, and highline.
Hmm.
I don't ride those because I don't have that risk tolerance. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that do, the locals here that do, and people that come here. My go-to trails are the trails in the village of Oak Creek because I can ride to them from my house, and that's on
Hmm.
both sides of Arizona 179. The Western Gateway in West Sedona, which was just recently completed in March of 2020. There's 29 miles of trails in there. I don't ride them all, but they're, vast majority of them are to my tolerance level. And the Blowout Wash
Hmm.
trail system in the Prescott National Forest near Cottonwood.
Hmm. Which of those are would you say are sort of family friendly rides?
Ooh, uh, Roundabout Trail near the Cultural Center in West Sedona.
Hmm.
The lower Blowout Wash trails, the Campus Trail, Blowout Butte, and Bullseye over in the Prescott National Forest, and the Big Park Loop in the village are the closest I would call to a family-friendly ride.
Hmm.
But expect a few short hike-a-bike sections. Even I don't clear all the Big Park Loop in the village every time.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I mean, there's most of it is pretty family-friendly. We take elementary school students on it. But just about anywhere in Sedona, you will find some places that even I, who live here and ride the trails all the time, like I said, don't clear every single time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned the three H's: Highline, Hangover, and I'm forgetting the third one.
High on the hog.
High on the Hog. What makes those trails so challenging? I mean, are we talking like boulders and rocky stuff, or some of the things I've seen there are real like slabby rides where it's kind of steep? And is that sort of the main technical challenge?
Exposure and rocks.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one of them, hangover, it has both exposure to the side as you go
Hmm.
around it and above you because the hangovers.
Yeah.
Cliff's Highline has a chute that you got to go down through, and as you're going down, you have to like navigate, not hit a branch of a tree as you're going down
Hmm.
it, and they're just very rocky. As you're riding up them,
Hmm.
uh, if you hit your pedal or hit a rock and stop and you
Hmm.
don't get unclipped, the doinks
Yeah.
there's some drop you can do in the doinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the lesser known trails where riders can get away from the crowds, or are those like local only kind of things you don't want to share?
Oh well. The trails in Sedona and the village of Oak Creek draw about 3 million annual visitors on them.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah, a lot of people will come here on their way to the Grand Canyon or
Hmm.
back, or just to come here just to for the Red Rocks.
Hmm.
But I've noticed that once you get about 3/8 of a mile from a trailhead,
Hmm.
the traffic goes down tremendously. And
Hmm.
with over 400 miles of trail, just right in the Red Rock Ranger District,
Hmm.
not all of that's open to mountain biking, of course, because some of it's in wilderness, but, there's
Hmm.
over 400 miles of trail. There's even more in the Verde region of the Prescott National Forest, the other side of the Verde River. It's not hard to escape the crowds.
Hmm.
And Jeff, if you truly want solitude, I recommend the Dead Horse State Park trails in Cottonwood.
Okay.
10% of the trail mileage there is in the state park, and 90% is the Coconino National Forest. And I did a 15-mile ride there Saturday. It was low upper 70s, no humidity, just a
Hmm.
gorgeous day. The only people I saw on the whole 15-mile ride were the other riders in my group.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's
Yeah,
surprising, but
yeah,
good to know that most people don't make it too far past the trailheads. And so
yeah.
I guess that sounds like even if you pull up and a parking lot looks really full, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be running into a lot of people once you get out there a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's not hard to find solitude here.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we mentioned that you're involved in a number of trail advocacy and organizations that support trails and biking in the Verde Valley region. Who builds and maintains the trails in the area? Is there one main group or is it kind of a team effort?
Well, it's a team effort led by the land manager, which is primarily the Red Rock and Verde Ranger districts of the two national
Hmm.
forests and Arizona State Parks and Trails. And they're heavily augmented by volunteers from the community and organizations such as the Friends of the Forest. Friends of the Forest does about 30,000 volunteer hours a year for the Forest Service here.
Wow.
And it's not just maintaining trails. They man the visitor center. They will go out and clean up graffiti. I mean,
Hmm.
they do a wide range of things. And the Sedona Rail Rock Trail Fund raises about 75% of the cost of the Red Rock Ranger District's trail crew, which
Oh,
is 2 full-year and 10 seasonal crew members the last several years.
wow.
We like to joke with the ranger that we wake up every morning trying to figure out how to make her payroll. And
Right.
at least
Sounds like
there,
it.
yeah. The money that the trail fund raises is for the National Forest trails near Sedona and the village of Oak Creek. The Verde Valley Cyclist Coalition has been the primary fundraiser for the new trail construction currently happening at the Blowout Wash System in the Prescott National Forest. And the
Hmm.
Verde Front is that's an organization it's a looteness coalition of governments, nonprofits, people that just care throughout the Verde Valley. And
Hmm.
they cover a bunch of different areas, but one of them is trails. And right now they're looking into creating a similar organization to the Sedona Red Rock Trail Fund to fund trail maintenance outside of the village of Oak Creek and Sedona. So a lot of going on there. So that's basically who builds and maintains them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how's the funding work? I mean, is most of it donations or is there like tourism money, taxes that are kind of going toward that?
Yes, yes, and yes. Three ways, four ways the Sedona Red Rock Trail Fund raises money. First is through business sponsorships.
Hmm.
There's a program in Sedona called Trail Keepers. It started back in 2016 with 25 local businesses committing to contribute $1,000 for 5 years.
Hmm.
That was matched by the chamber from bed tax money from the city.
Okay.
At the end of the second year, it was so popular, 10 businesses were added for 3 years. And at the end of
Hmm.
the third year, 15 businesses were added. So the last 2 years, it was 50 businesses contributing 1,000 and matched.
Wow.
Yeah, and now we're in the process of starting Trail Keepers 2, which and a trail keeper gets a little more than just to be able to say they're a trail keeper.
Hmm.
They we put a little trail keeper sign on. They get their name on 3 trailheads in the Red
Oh,
Rock.
cool.
Yeah, and no more than 5 per sign. And the chamber does some marketing for them that
Hmm.
they are, trail friendly businesses here.
Okay.
Yeah, and so and then the donors, both individual donors and major donors,
Hmm.
grants. We write a lot of grants here,
Mm.
and finally, events. The Verde Valley Cyclist Coalition is the bartender. Well, uh, they sell the tokens, so
Okay.
you can get a beer at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. And we
Yeah.
always and we partner with the Sedona Red Rock Trail Fund to do a raffle. And the raffle is generally bike related stuff. Plus,
Hmm.
we get some hotels to offer, and we put some like vacation packages together. You might get 2 nights at Enchantment Resort, plus 2 meals at this restaurant, free
Hmm.
bike rental from this bike shop, along with a free guided tour type of things.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, how can visitors support sort of the work that all the groups are doing there to build and maintain trails?
Well, a couple of ways. There's cairns that we have in 7 places around Sedona and the village of Oak Creek.
Hmm.
Uh, it's kind of interesting. The money there gets, especially after a rain, it gets really filthy. And I like to joke we have to launder the money. I mean, it comes out,
Literally.
you put it in the deep sink, you wash it, you put the bills in the dryer, before, because
Wow.
the bank won't accept it, unless
Yeah.
it's, clean money. And several of the businesses, especially the hotels, we have what we call a trail bucks program, where when you check into the hotel, you're asked, would you like to donate $1 a night or so much a
Oh,
night
cool.
to support the trails? And that money comes into the trail fund and goes to hire either contract crews, or the trail fund has a collection agreement with the Forest Service, and it goes to fund the full year and the seasonal trail crew. So
Yeah.
that's how. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different ways, and of course you can go to the Verde Valley Cyclist Coalition's website or the Sedona Red Rock Trail Fund's website and give a donation if you'd like.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so many ways to do it, and it sounds
Yeah.
like it's pretty easy. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to give back. Does it ever feel though, as a volunteer and a resident, someone who lives in the Verde Valley, does it ever feel sort of thankless, like you're doing all this work for people who just kind of come in and take advantage of the trails and then they're gone, or do you see it as sort of your mission? Do you get a kick out of seeing a lot of people coming and visiting and enjoying the trails?
Well, as the Sedona mayor likes to say, I mean, there's a lot of people that I think Sedona is getting too crowded. Coming from
Hmm.
and traffic's terrible. Coming from Washington D.C., I like to tell people there's no traffic here.
Right. It's all relative.
Yes, yes, it is. But the Sedona mayor likes to say, if 40 some years ago when I first came here, if the people that lived here had that attitude then, you wouldn't be here now.
Mm.
So, I'm one of the ones who welcomes the tourists.
Hmm.
I was a tourist here once,
Right.
and I go on vacation, and I go to places that I'd like to feel like I'm welcome there and not,
Yeah.
some type of outsider. But not everybody here has that view, which
Hmm.
is, one of the reasons why it's fun to be here, because not diversity of opinion works. And
Right. Yeah.
the folks who are raising the money and showing up at the volunteer work days, we look at it as giving back. We don't look at it that, oh my God, we're out here because the tourists are tearing up the trails. One
Hmm.
one summer monsoon will do more damage to the trails than
Yeah.
all of the tourists combined during the year. So it's
Yeah.
some people feel that way, but I mean, as talking to trail stewards, we're not in here for the recognition. We're here because we love the land.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Great perspective. Well, you mentioned bike rentals. Are there good places to rent decent mountain bikes for the day or even the week? Like if someone is just, like you said, passing through, maybe going to the Grand Canyon or yeah, flying in for a week, but they don't want to bring their bikes. Are there a lot of opportunities to rent mountain bikes in town?
Absolutely, Jeff. Matter of fact, sometimes I look at the bikes they have for rental and I'm jealous, just because.
Yeah.
But three of them that come right off the top are Thunder Mountain Bikes in Sedona,
Hmm.
Absolute Bikes in the Village of Oak Creek, and the Verde Valley Bicycle Company in Cottonwood. They all rent high. I mean, you can go from a basic mountain bike all the way up to a $10,000 mountain bike if you want to rent
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of other bike shops that rent bikes, but uh, for some reason, they're not VVCC sponsors, so I'm not going to mention them during
That'll
this.
give them some incentive to,
Yeah,
yeah, to
maybe.
sign up.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great. Well, are there tour operators or clubs or like sort of group rides that visitors can connect with if they want to ride with some local mountain bikers?
absolutely. Hermersa Tours and the Sedona Mountain Bike Academy both are in Sedona. They offer
Hmm.
individual and group riding tours.
Okay.
If you send an email to board at VVCCUS, looking to
Hmm.
connect with local riders, that'll usually hook you up. But
Oh, cool.
if I'm one of the ones that ride with you, be prepared for me to hold up my hat afterwards to help maintain the trails.
Yeah.
And I'll usually bring beer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Verde Valley Cyclist Coalition holds a Friday, what we call our fundraiser ride. And we have free beer and soft drinks when we do
Hmm.
it. And we do it from mid October to mid May. And they alternate between the Blowout Wash at the Yavapai College Trailhead, and that's on the first and third Fridays of the month, and
Hmm.
Dead Horse State Park. We meet at the Verde Valley Bicycle Company the other Fridays of a month. And then the funds go to help build a new trail at the Blowout Wash. What we did, Jeff, was we took a ride we would normally do anyhow,
Hmm.
posted it on Meetup, got beer donated to us, and
Hmm.
show up with beer and a little donation box, and we raised about $2,000 a year for new trail
Wow.
construction.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and between mid-May and mid-October, because it gets too hot during the middle of the day here, we move the ride up to Campbell Mesa in Flagstaff, and the funds
Hmm.
that we raise there go to support the Flagstaff Trail Initiative's work. And
Okay.
if you want to find out when there's rides here, the VVCC has a meetup called VVCC Mountain Bike Rides, and
Hmm.
you can find out more details on any of the rides that we do. And and if you email the board, and there's a ride going on, we'll get you invited, and the next thing you know, you'll be hooked and be moving here, and you'll be joining our circle of friends and telling people, you died and gone to heaven.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super impressed with the number of ways that the groups have figured out to raise funds because it's not cheap to maintain all those trails and to maintain them at the level of quality that keep people have come to expect from
Yeah.
Sedona. Coming to visit, and at the same time, it doesn't feel like you're being nickel and dimed or like like you have to give. But there again, it sounds like you guys just make it really easy and so that hopefully people want to contribute.
Well, like on our Friday fundraiser rides, I mean, we put, I put my helmet down and I put a $5 bill in it, and and I tell people only the trail gods know if you give or not. Nobody cares. If you want to
Right.
show up, and I have people go, oh, I forgot money. Well, come next week and pay twice. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's more to have fun and to drink beer, and if we can, raise a few bucks for the to create new trails, we're happy to do it. And like I mean, no one's gonna. Like I said, only the trail gods know.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. That's great. Well, speaking of beer, where do people hang out after the rides? Sounds like maybe parking lots, but are there also like bars or breweries that tend to attract mountain bikers?
Yep, there's Famous Pizza and Beer in West Sedona in the village of Oak Creek. That's a popular Opera's Ride hangout. Steve
Hmm.
Biusi, the owner of both of them, is very supportive of the trails and the community, because
Hmm.
I mean he sees a lot of people in there. They're in their
Yeah.
riding gear. There's that brewery in Cottonwood and Oak Creek Brewery in Sedona. Oak Creek Brewery in Sedona has a beer garden, and nice and shady to go for beer
Hmm.
afterwards. And then there's the Sedona Beer Company in Uptown Sedona. They have a beer garden, and the Belfry Brew Pub is brand new, opened up in Cottonwood, and I've been there, and the beer is great. Uh, if you like food, there's Colt Barbecue in the Village of Oak Creek in Cottonwood. There's G Burgers and Farmagogo in Cornville. They're local favorites. Senior Bob's in Sedona. He has great burgers and talks, and
Mm.
it's. I mean, I think it's like $9, and you can get a good sized hamburger, some fries, and a soft drink, and and then for breakfast, the Red Rock Cafe in the Village of Oak Creek has a 3-pound island-sized cinnamon roll along with other breakfast staples. We,
Whoa.
my wife and I made the mistake of ordering that the first time we were here. My goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, it took us like a week and a half to eat it. And if wine is your thing, there's several wineries along Oak Creek and nearby Page Springs. So there's plenty of places to go afterwards.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you're making me hungry. What's your favorite beer of all the local beers you gotta
Oh my
go to
goodness.
that you order?
Oh my goodness. I like Oak Creek Amber out of the Oak Creek Brewing
Hmm.
Company.
Okay.
And that brewery has one, I think it's called the Arizona Trail Ale.
Hmm.
That's also pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to check those out. So, what about places for people to stay? Is there camping available sort of outside of town? And also, I'd like to know about like sort of bike-friendly hotels or other options for lodging.
Sure. There's dispersed dry camping in the national forest outside the Sedona city limits here, or
Hmm.
like outside of the village of Oak Creek. And the Forest Service has several campgrounds up in Oak Creek Canyon, along with campsites with showers at Dead Horse
Hmm.
State Park in Cottonwood. There's also some RV parks in Camp Verde, Cottonwood, and Sedona, if that's your thing.
Okay.
And just note that, especially during the busy season, in the spring and the fall, many of these campgrounds and RV parks fill up, so reserve
Hmm.
early. And then, as we talked about earlier, many of the Sedona hotels and VOC hotels cater to mountain bikers. Some of them have bike wash and bike fix-it stations, also, and they also contribute to the trail maintenance as
Hmm.
Sedona Trailkeeper, as I talked about before. Vacation rentals are a touchy subject here
Hmm.
locally. The Arizona State Legislature took away the ability to regulate them locally, and
Hmm.
locals are concerned that some neighborhoods are turning into retail hotel establishments.
Yeah.
So if you go the vacation rental route, just be respectful and manage and imagine if you lived next door to a place that had loud parties at any given evening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah. I mean, I have a vacation rental. Uh, the next house down from us. Fortunately, it's far enough away that we don't normally hear them, but
Hmm.
I do hear them when I'm out walking our dog.
Yeah.
And every now and again, there'll be a bunch of mountain bikes there, and I'll holler on over to them, "Where are you guys riding?" and this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
most of the time, my wife's like, how come, is it the vacation rental? And, I didn't tell her about the time that 20 women rented it, and it had a hot tub. It
Oh,
was
wow.
night. I'm walking the dog, and they were all out in the hot tub and in and out of the hot tub. That poor dog got the longest walk of his life.
That can be distracting.
Yes, yes, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no shortage of places to stay here, and like I said earlier, and in Sedona, in the village of Oak Creek, you can ride to the ride. It's that cool,
Hmm.
and you come back from the ride, the hotel, like Sedona Real, Arabella, the Hilton, they all have bike wash stations, bike fix-it stations, so I mean, they really, they recognize that mountain bikers, are coming here, and
Hmm.
and if they have the amenities, they'll attract them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you make a good point too about just keeping in mind, like being respectful if you are visiting from out of town, and hopefully it's not the mountain bikers that are having the loud parties at the vacation rentals. And I've heard from a number of uh, cities and towns that do attract mountain bike tourists. Mountain bikers generally have a pretty good reputation in terms of like, we're out riding hard all day, and then by the time we get back, maybe we'll have a couple beers, but we're tired. We want to go to sleep
Yeah,
after a long day of riding.
yeah.
So hopefully that's the case, and mountain bikers will continue to be welcome in places like Sedona.
Yeah, well, and I think it's more, just, if you live in a residential neighborhood, the last thing you want is, to be surrounded by houses that are really hotels. 'Cause
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if you wanted to, live near a hotel, you would have bought a house near a hotel. So I think it's
Right.
more that than who who the people are that are there. But I mean, there are some that get the ones that are really loud are the weddings. A lot of people
Yeah.
come here to get married, and then they'll do the vacation rentals, and a lot of partying going on.
Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on it, but it sounds like the best time of year to visit is going to be sort of October to May. Is that right?
Well, anytime's a good time of year to visit because in the summer the trails are less traveled, but we
Hmm.
ride early. I mean, Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time, so
Hmm.
on the summer solstice at about 3:45 a.m., it's light.
Oh, wow.
My bedroom faces east. I have real high windows that don't have curtains, so I'm usually up at the crack of dawn and
Yeah. Wow.
out riding before it gets hot, and I have the
Hmm.
trails all to myself. And so riding here, as in the summer, we're riding early, and then as the seasons go on, we ride later and later in the day. And I like to joke we only have winter here at night during the winter months. So yeah, and then there's plenty of other places. Like I said, in the summer we do a lot of riding up in Flagstaff, and sometimes in the
Mm.
winter we go down south. So
Yeah.
you can ride 365 days a year here, and there's something about having your ride done by 8 o'clock in the morning and having the rest
Mhm.
of the day to do other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
That's
June and
great.
July. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the big events that's pretty well known among mountain bikers is the Sedona Mountain Bike Fest, which I believe is usually March of
Yep.
each year. Are there other races or events or festivals that people can kind of plan their trip around, or maybe try to avoid if they're looking for a little more solitude?
Well, this year the mountain bike festival is going to be held November 12th through 14th because
Hmm.
it was one of the last festivals that went before the pandemic kind of shut that
That's
down,
right.
and because it was in March of 2020, and and then now this year it's Mike Rainey who puts it on. He's also one of the co-owners of Thunder Mountain Bikes. He's putting it
Hmm.
on, like I said, November 12th to the 14th. There's no
Okay.
mountain bike races here yet. Could be a
Really?
combination. Yeah, part of it could be just the technical nature of the trails.
Hmm.
But as the blowout wash and Cottonwood gets more developed, uh, maybe down the road. But if you like mountain bike racing, the Mountain Bike Association of Arizona, they put on a popular bike race series across the state between January and May each year. They start down in the valley in the Phoenix metro area in January, and then they move out to Lake Havasu and do a race, and then they move up to Prescott and then up to Flagstaff as it gets warmer. And so they
Hmm.
just move to higher elevation.
Yeah.
It gets warmer, and I do
That's
it every
nice.
year. It's a lot of fun. And the Mountain Bike Association of Arizona, they're a nonprofit, and they actually the race proceeds they invest back throughout the state in different trail systems.
Hmm.
So they're also giving back. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just and if you want to avoid, there's always something going on in Sedona. Probably the biggest thing is the Sedona Film Festival,
Hmm.
which usually is in March. Some years it overlaps with the mountain bike festival. Most
Oh,
times it
wow.
doesn't. Yeah, it just depends on how like Easter falls different times of the year. It
Hmm.
all depends
Yeah.
on how the weeks line up.
Yeah.
But there's always something going on in Sedona and in the Verde Valley. There's no shortage of things. So.
Hmm.
But trail related, the things that fill up the trail are the mountain bike festival And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
if I'm not selling beer tokens during the festival, I'm down riding in Cottonwood or somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Somewhere else.
Cause, yeah, because the trails get pretty crowded, and usually people start showing up the Monday prior, and they make a week out of it for the festival, so that the trails stay pretty crowded.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the trail building and trail maintenance is kind of a constant thing. There's dedicated trail crews in the Verde Valley. What are the plans to expand or improve trails within the next year or two? Are there new trails coming online, or some of the trails being reworked that people should know about?
Yep. In both forests, the Red Rock Ranger District of the Coconino is working on the NEPA to improve the trail system in the Turkey Creek area of the
Hmm.
village of Oak Creek. And we expect to break ground as early as our 2022-2023 field season.
Okay.
This past field season saw the Red Rock Ranger District construct two new trails. I talked about them earlier, Rabbit Ears and Little Rock. And the 29-mile Western Gateway Trail system in West Sedona was completed in March 2020. And it broke ground November 8th, 2018, and was done in just 2 seasons.
Wow.
And then across the Verde River in the Prescott National Forest, the Verde Ranger District's in the process of implementing what they call their VTAP, Verde Trails and Access Plan. That's
Hmm.
180 miles of new trail going in the Verde over the next decade or so.
Whoa.
Yeah, and the first VTAP project, the Blowout Wash, uh, over the last 2 seasons, they've completed 14 miles of new trail, and that's near Cottonwood and Clarkdale. And the
Hmm.
views from up there, you get about up to about 4,200 feet. You see the entire Verde Valley. You see Sedona. You see the San Francisco peaks up in Flagstaff. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And
Wow.
don't get me wrong. Sedona is gorgeous too, the iconic Red Rock views. But you don't see the San Francisco peaks anywhere unless you go way, way, way up into the
Hmm.
wilderness. And you
Yeah.
don't see the entire Verde Valley like you do over there. And then when they finish their VTAP, it's going to be followed by their VRAP, the Verde Recreation Access Plan, and that's going to add another 120 miles of trail over there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and within the next decade, mountain bikers are going to be able to ride from near the top of Mingus Mountain. That's a little over 7,000 feet elevation.
Hmm.
Drop over 4,000 feet on 9 miles of single track to the Verde River, cross into Dead Horse State Park, and ride the Limekeel Trail to Sedona. That's
Wow.
that's going to be an epic day. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I
Geez.
mean that's, and I'm sure that once that gets opened, that you can start at the top of Mingus Mountain. I'm sure there'll be some outfitters coming in to do shuttle rides, shuttle you up to the top and let you ride
Hmm.
down, and you'd finish basically in Old Town Cottonwood, and there's plenty of restaurants there and breweries and things like that I talked about earlier that you could do. So a lot of there's the Verde has 300 miles more planned. 14 are on the ground, and we're raising money right now to start. They're going to be building the Copper Chief Trail starting this fall. That's about 8 miles. That's going to link what they've been doing towards Cottonwood, Clarkdale, heading more towards Camp Verde, and it's going to connect to the Black Canyon Trail. This isn't the National Recreation Trail. This is the Mingus Black Canyon Trail that will eventually get you up to the top of Mingus Mountain. It's just going to be, we're just so excited about it
Yeah.
and that will help. The more trails to get in, are in the Verde Valley. And there's other things. There's the Sun Corridor Trail that's going to take you from Phoenix all the way up to Utah. That's going to come through the Verde
Whoa.
Valley. There's just there's trail development happening in Camp Verde, in Beaver Creek, in Cornville. I mean, it's the other communities in the Verde Valley are seeing people coming to Sedona to mountain bike, and they're going, "We got incredible,"
Yeah.
and
Wow.
there's plenty of, like I said, only 17% of the land here is privately owned. So there's plenty of public land with
Hmm.
easy access, and so trails are just exploding here. It's just I'm just so excited, and that we're as Sedona, we're running out of space to build. Turkey Creek's about the last place around Sedona to
Hmm.
expand. So now it's expanding throughout the Verde Valley. So, what was it? 714 square miles. That's our
Hmm.
playground.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, something that scale too. I mean, what's driving it? It sounds like, is it tourism? Is it these smaller communities saying we want trails so that more people will visit?
Well, it's a combination. One, people are recognizing that getting outside, especially during the pandemic, getting outside
Hmm.
is very helpful. It's also for quality of life for the people that live here, and then to help expand the economy. So people are recognizing that people will come if there's high quality trails, and it's not just maintaining the trails. You have to have good signage.
Hmm.
Uh, so that so do the work up front, put the signs up. Go get lost, so others don't have to go get lost. A
Right.
friend of mine writes a blog of hiking in Arizona, and she builds it. We got lost, so you don't have to.
That's great. Well, it sounds like the trail users and user groups must have a really good relationship with the land managers. And this massive new trail system you're talking about, is that Forest Service land or is that
Yes.
the BLM?
No, it's
Okay,
Forest
Forest
Service.
Service.
Yeah, it's the Prescott National, the very region of the Prescott National Forest. They've been seeing what's their sister organization, the Red Rock Ranger District in the Coconino, has been able to do for Sedona, and this all of this stuff just didn't happen yesterday. This is years in the making.
Mm,
There, I think the VTAP. Got the Verde Trails and Access Plan got its origins in 2008. So
okay.
yeah, so we're at the implementation part,
Hmm.
which is always exciting. But there was so much work to get to this. All the
Yeah,
NEPA
I'm sure.
and all the public meetings and everything that you have to do to create new trails. And follow the law on public land, especially federal public land.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it seems like it was smart though to kind of set your sights on 100+ miles of trails because it does take that long to go through the whole process. And if you had to do that kind of like system by system or loop by loop, seems like that would just never end. But now it sounds like you guys have done the groundwork, have said this is the master plan, and then now it's a matter of every year kind of adding into that area that's already been approved.
Yep, exactly, Jeff.
That's great. Well, is there anything else that mountain bikers need to know before visiting the Verde Valley in Sedona?
You may run into some or all of the 63 Red Rock bike patrollers on your ride anywhere in the Verde Valley.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a patroller. It was started about a decade ago with
Hmm.
two people. Now it's 63 mountain bikers. Each patroller carries a first aid kit, and they're on the trail to assist, educate, and inform. Biggest
Hmm.
question we get is, can you tell us where our car is? And we always answer that question with a question. Can you please tell us where you parked your car so we can tell you how to
Right.
get back? Because there's places
Yeah.
to park. Yeah. Uh, the Sedona Chambers installed 7 bike fix-it stations in the spring of 2019 at high-use trailheads at Fay
Hmm.
Canyon, Sedona Bike Skills Park, Adobe Jack, Chuckwagon, Bell Rock, Sugarloaf, and Yavapai Vista trailheads.
Hmm.
And you can find their exact locations at visitsedona.com, and then just keep searching in there and you will find it. And if you rent a bike, please ask the bike shop to affix a bear bell on the bike and let it ring as you ride. Uh,
Hmm.
the bell's noise is far less annoying than hitting a hiker or scaring an equestrian's horse while you're out riding, believe me.
Yeah.
And since we started putting them on the patrollers' bikes, we get a lot of positive compliments from hikers and equestrians. Thank you
Hmm.
for wearing the bell. I heard you. Because if you come around a blind turn fast, and you don't holler out biker, so, and if you're not renting a bike, if you send an email to board at VVCCUS,
Hmm.
VVCC President Marty Galinsky will arrange for you to have a bell to take home with you.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so and Marty's right now working to have the bells available at the 7 bike fix-it stations. So, you come, take a bell, go for your ride, come back, drop it off, or if you don't, take it home with you. We'd
Awesome.
rather you ride with the bell and because like I said, especially 3/8 of a mile from a trailhead, you're going to come up to the trails are more heavily trafficked, and it's just curious. And
Hmm.
if you have a car and want to park an approved Red Rock Ranger District trailhead with a pit toilet and other amenities, there's a fee for doing so. The Red
Okay.
Rock Pass costs $5 for one day, $15 for a week, or $20 for a year.
Hmm.
And it can be purchased at each pay site, the Sedona Visitor Center, and many local retail establishments. And the last thing I'll say, that if you park your car in a neighborhood in Sedona that's by a nearby trailhead,
Hmm.
because the trailhead is full, you'll more than likely find your car towed. It's just
It's a good tip.
yeah, yeah. And if you're like going down Dry Creek Road and you see it's just a zoo, keep going down Dry Creek Road heading north, and right before you hit the bridge at the Dry Creek, there's a little turn off to the left. If you go back in there, it's an old shooting range,
Hmm.
and but there's that's where we park when we want to
Okay.
ride out there.
You're blowing up your secret spot.
Well, we'll see how big this podcast is, right, Jeff?
Right.
Yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, eventually, people know about it. It's not a terrible secret, but uh, it's just a good place to go, and you can access the trails right from there, and it's almost like having your own secret place. And the Forest Service is working to build a new trailhead about a quarter of a mile from it, so they got it
Okay.
approved. So, uh, and so it's going. So that's pretty much it, Jeff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing all your local knowledge about riding in the Verde Valley, and also for all your advocacy work and volunteering to make the trails what they are, and make them worth visiting for so many people. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jeff, and thanks for inviting me on to your podcast.
My pleasure. So, if you want to learn more, we'll have links to the Verde Valley Cyclist Coalition website and some of the other sites mentioned in the show as well. That's all we've got this week. We'll talk to you again next week.